You're listening to The Charity Show, the podcast for charity insiders by charity insiders. If you enjoy the show, please take a second to rate, follow and subscribe on your usual podcast platform. And here's what's coming up in episode 28.
Yeah.
Tell you what, the partnership I'd like to see there is you jumping off the 10-metre board. That's what I'd quite like to see.
No chance. I've actually been at the aquatic centre when Tom was actually in his training, and looking over the edge at that 10-metre, that's a lot longer down to the water than you realise when you're at the top.
Now, I'd donate good money to that, you see. Now, you're onto something there.
In Muller, and I think there's that real belief within the operational world that no good food should go to waste. So we're really aware operationally of the risk of food waste and also the moral imperative to tackle that. And I suppose if you look at some of the numbers, I think it's 9.5 million tonnes of food are wasted each year. And then if you think about the amount of people that go without and are hungry and face hardship. So I think that's where, that social impact piece really, really matters, because we're a huge organisation. We touch communities across the country. So for us to be able to have a positive impact on that is really important to us.
Janine Norris get in touch, highlighting the Muirhead Outreach Project based up in Scotland. And Muirhead was created back in 2004 to work alongside social work and children's homes to help support families to keep their children from being taken into care. Welcome back to The Charity Show. I'm Piers Townley, PR Manager at the Brain Tumour Charity.
And I'm Tim Bainan, Head of Marketing Engagement at Firefighters Charity. And Piers, this week we're going to be chatting to Viki Bryant. Got a fascinating conversation coming up. She's Head of Culture, no dairy pun intended here, at Muller, the yogurt folks. And we're going to be talking to Viki about charity. Basically, it turns out that the people behind the crunch corners, the fruit corners, the things that we all love sitting in our fridges right now, they've teamed up with the UK food charity FareShare, and Viki shares expert insights into making a third sector partnership work for the community and the cause. And I think this is a fascinating insight, basically from the other side, which we don't usually do very often, from the corporate side looking at the charity world rather than the charity world looking at the corporate. So this is a fascinating sort of flipping the tables conversation with Viki coming up very shortly, and we'll find out more. But Piers, tell me a bit about your experience with partnerships. Well, your experience with fruit corners, first of all. What are you, a fruit corner man or a crunch corner man?
That has to be a crunch corner. Yeah, like it's all about the texture. All about the texture, all about sweet tooth, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not, as you say, Tim, perhaps with you as well, I'm not directly involved with the partnerships side of the Brain Tumour Charity, but obviously with the comms, we're kept in, we're brought in to shout about it, to liaise with them if they want press associated, the fundraising, any of the developments, any of the funds that are raised within our partnerships. We did a lot of this with Wix, which has had a 2-year-long partnership with the Brain Tumour Charity and has raised £2 million, which is a transformational amount of funds. So my role in all of that would be highlighting Wix's partnership with us, ongoing, totals of the sums raised, case study stories, storytelling stories from some of the store fundraising efforts that they did. But along the way, we have many, many other partnerships, a whole variety of them actually, from Majestic Wine to the Motormouth Media, which is the F1 podcast show and media company that we've worked with over the years. Harry Benjamin there and Tim Silvey. Harry Benjamin's actually, I think he's over with Sky now on F1. He's done well. But all the way down to smaller family-led kind of companies and partnerships, the likes of the puppet companies. One that springs to mind there, they made a puppet just for us, a sock puppet just for us. So really from the small to the large, as all charities do, we do kind of collaborate and get into partnerships with them. So yeah, from a comms, from a kind of add-on, from a kind of support PR media way, this is the way that we work, and I've worked over the last few years with them. How about yourself, Tim?
Yeah, same really. Sort of watching from afar from afar and closer up at times. But yeah, we're here to support as a comms team the work that the Firefighters Charity does in terms of reaching out to partners and the corporate world. What we have seen, I think, recently that is fascinating is that there's definitely a demand there, it seems, I think, from corporates, from these big companies, commercial companies, for a partnership that works both ways, so that it's not just a relationship where they put a bucket on a till and raise money for us. It's about what can their employees get involved in. They want to know what they can do, and how that becomes more of a sort of a learning experience for them and their people, as well as an opportunity to raise money for the charity. So that's been really interesting, and something that's evolved from our side as a result of that. We're now offering something that we call Firefighter for a Day, which is an experience where we welcome corporate companies along to a fire station or a training centre, and they basically come along in teams and take part in a whole world of sort of firefighting experience. So they're there, firing hoses at cars, cutting the roofs off cars, getting in, dressing in their full BA gear and all that kind of stuff, and basically trying to, get a sense of what life is like as a firefighter and what the job involves. So it's a good example of a partnership that works both ways. As I was saying, they are raising huge money for us, which is amazing, and donating towards us, but we're also able to give them a bit of an experience, a bit of an insight into what life is like as a firefighter. And I think that's certainly from the conversation with Viki, that seems to be the way things are going. So I'm really intrigued to see how other charities are what they're doing in that sort of sense as well. So anyone who listens to this episode who's got some insight or some experience of doing those kind of things, working side by side with corporates to offer them experiences, tell us about them. I'd love to hear about those. So get in touch with the show, let us know about those. So yeah, really fascinating conversation, and it's also been a good week, really, I suppose, in terms of weather-wise. Piers, how have you coped with the heat this week? It's been a scorcher.
Well, yeah, back to your charity, the temperature has been rising, hasn't it? So we're kind of dealing with the heat. I love all that, Tim. I think that's a very important point, isn't it? It's being part of the charity rather than working alongside the charity. So who doesn't want to be a firefighter, for a day at least? But in the background, I've been having to do a lot of sort of off-the-record work with one of our high-profile supporters. Tom Daly will be hopefully doing a big campaign with us towards the end of summer. I can't talk too much about it at the moment, but it's a partnership. It's a partnership with a huge brand that he's working with. Obviously, he does lots of work now that he's no longer a diver. His brand is carrying on and doing other things. But because he's such a lifelong supporter of the Brain Tumor Charity, he's doing something for us in conjunction with this partner that I'll talk about as we go down. But lots of that work has been going on in the background for me this week.
Very cloak and dagger. Very cloak and dagger.
Yeah.
Tell you what, the partnership I'd like to see there is you jumping off the 10-metre board. That's what I'd quite like to see.
No chance. I've actually been at the aquatic centre when Tom, this is a couple of years by now, when Tom was actually in his training, and looking over the edge at that 10-metre, that's a lot longer down to the water than you realise when you're at the top.
Now, I'd donate good money to that, you see. Now, you're onto something there. This week, we're joined by Viki Bryant, Head of Culture at Muller. Yes, that's right, the yoghurt people. But as you'll hear, there's a lot more going on behind the scenes than just dairy. Viki talks us through Muller's long-standing charity work and how it went from making small local donations to redistributing over 4 million meals through FareShare. Now, they're the UK's national network of charitable food, and they work with nearly 8,000 frontline charities and community groups to redistribute food. And we also asked Viki what charities can learn from Muller's journey. The conversation, as usual, is split into two parts, with our third sector news break in the middle. And in the first half, we dig into the company's sustainability strategy, food partnerships, and how they've got staff across the business genuinely engaged. Then, in part two, we get into the nitty-gritty of what makes a charity-corporate partnership work, how culture plays a role, and what small charities can do to get a foot in the door. So, here's our chat with Viki. Viki, welcome to the Charity Show. It's fantastic to see you, and an absolute delight to have you on today, and to find out a little bit more about all that you do, all that's going on at Muller, and what our audience can learn from you, and what charities can take from the conversation we're about to have. So exciting times. We're looking forward to everything we've got to go through over this interview. But perhaps first off, tell us a little bit about your role. You're Head of Culture at Muller. Might sound like a bit of an unusual job for this job title for this podcast. But tell us a little bit about your role, what you do, and tell us more.
Okay, yeah, no problem. So in my role as culture lead, I work with teams across the business and leaders across the business to help them understand the part that they can play in creating a really positive work culture. So if you think that culture stems from everyday behaviours, then everyone's got a part to play in shaping that culture and creating a workplace where everyone feels included, where everyone feels engaged and valued, and everyone can bring their full most contributing self to the workplace, really. And I think a key part of my role really is about raising awareness of some of the barriers that can exist for different groups of people. So I work really closely with our network groups and work with leaders and various stakeholders across the business, and just looking at the way that we do things in the business, looking at who benefits the most from those things, who benefits the least, and I suppose working to fix that so that really things work better for everyone. So, my job is really focused on our own colleagues within the organisation, but we also look externally as well, and really consider the wider world impact that our business has within the communities, which obviously is what has led to the development of our Stronger Communities approach, which is part of the work that we do with Fair Share.
Sure.
So in a nutshell, that is kind of what I do.
It sounds like a really broad remit that you have. Obviously, culture is something that is relevant to your internal audience at the organisation as well as externally as well, of course. But how does that sort of link to social impact? You've sort of touched on it there a little bit, and sort of how does that link to giving and social impact and to the world that Piers and I inhabit?
Yeah. So I think within Muller, it's really important to us from a big dairy producer, and I think there's that real belief within the operational world that no good food should go to waste. And if you think about some of the products that we provide, some of them can have a bit of a shorter shelf life, so that's perishable. So I think we're really aware operationally of the risk of food waste, and also the moral imperative to tackle that. And I suppose if you look at some of the numbers, what some of the research says, if you think about the food waste figures, I think it's 9.5 million tonnes of food are wasted each year. If you put that into context, it's just over 2,000 football pitches of food that goes to waste. And then if you think about the amount of people that go without and are hungry and face hardship, I think the numbers are 9.3 million from the numbers that I've researched. So some of the things that we'll take for granted, like the morning coffee that we have to get us going in the morning, or the milk that we'll pour onto our cereal, some of these things are just things that we kind of just a part of our day to day, but it's just not the reality for some people. So I think that's where that social impact piece really, really matters, because we're a huge organisation. We touch communities across the country. So for us to be able to have a positive impact on that is really important to us.
It's an amazing amount of food waste. And I love the fact that it seems to be a thing in this country that we measure things by football pitch sizes. So I love that.
Yeah, I don't know why I picked football. Could have been something else, but hey ho.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe it'll change. Maybe it'll be a tennis court at some point as a yardstick.
It's either buses or football pitches, most things, isn't it?
Buses or football pitches.
Yeah.
I think my next question, Viki, will probably lead into Tim's next one as well, because it's the kind of combination of, a food company, a big corporate company, and a charitable cause. It's kind of going back to how that became ingrained into Muller's culture, and what was the main drivers of that initiative starting way back when it did. So what sort of, how did this sort of thing come about? How did it kind of start?
Yeah, so we've been working with Fair Share. It's 2013, so it's like 12 years. Checking my maths. Yeah, 12 years ago. And as I mentioned before, we operate from Scotland to Somerset, so we've got sites kind of dotted all across the country. And I think the relationship really formed from the local ties to begin with. So it was the local sites kind of working with the kind of local centres within Fair Share to work when they had donations, and it's grown from that, really. So it's been those local conversations and the relationships that's been built with Fair Share over time that's led to us now kind of really making it part of our strategy kind of going forward. So it's developed, if you like, from that.
Can you give us a sense of what that actually looks like on a local level? It's quite easy when you talk about big numbers, and obviously you guys are a huge organisation, big national coverage across the UK. But what does it actually mean on a local level in terms of the work that you're doing? What's the impact that you're seeing in terms of people and sort of the human impact of what you're doing?
Yeah, so I think so working with FareShare offer a variety of ways for our colleagues to get involved and give back, if you like. So FareShare offer all sorts of different opportunities. So you can go along to the warehouse and you can volunteer and spend time with the volunteers that work for FareShare and help them in kind of, packaging up the food and then distributing it out to the 8,500 charities that they then kind of support, whether it's a community group or a school or whatever that might be. So what FareShare enable us to do is for our colleagues to go along to spend time within that setting to really understand what they do and then the impact that it has. So, I think when we create those opportunities where our employees can go out and actually physically see, the food that we make and the positive impact that it has on the community, I think that's really, it's really impactful. So, if you think about some of these community groups and they might be bringing people together that might not have had a conversation, and it might be the first conversation that they're having that week with people that they meet within that community setting. And if they're enjoying a cup of tea, might be the first cup of tea that they've had that week or some food. I think just understanding that we play a part in facilitating that, I think, is really powerful.
Sure. And do you hear back much from those kind of groups? Do you hear back from those community groups in terms of people? Do people thank you for it? Do people get in touch and say, "Gosh, I was never expecting that. It was great."
Yeah, so we have. So in terms of the feedback loop that we have with FareShare, quite often we try and ensure that we get that feedback that comes round. And I think it is just really impactful that we can hear the impact that it has. Yeah, definitely.
So a lot of that local level is very sort of passionate in the third sector, in the charitable sector, Viki. We hear about it all the time. Charities working with communities, very individual communities. But what from a charity point of view, could charities do better to engage, bigger companies? How can they step up or encourage, to step up from more than a local level to more of a national level and more of a national campaign? What can charities do to help?
Yeah, so I think, I think what stands out for us working with FareShare is just the communication, the relationship that we've built with them and the flexibility. I think what FareShare do really well is they understand the reality of working in that kind of fast-paced consumer goods environment, and they really do respond. They're just quite agile, and they really just do work with us to make sure that we can, kind of change tact or direction whenever we need to, and get that food to the people that need it the most.
But like I said, that flexibility, then it's almost both parts need to kind of understand how they kind of work. So kind of charities need to kind of understand how the corporate or the consumer world works, so they can adapt what their campaigns or their causes are for that company to become involved in.
Exactly. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so it's a difficult one. I think it's a difficult one for charities to perhaps get their head around sometimes, especially, and it can be daunting, I think, for charities to think about, God, how do I approach a Muller? How do I approach these big giant companies in terms of trying to get a foot in the door and start those conversations? So I think we'll come on to some of that stuff a little bit later on about how charities can perhaps do that. But tell me a little bit about your sustainability strategy. So as I understand it, Muller launched their sustainability strategy in 2023. How has that changed the way you think or the organisation thinks about giving as a whole? And how does that fit into the overall business model? Obviously, you're a corporate at the end of the day. You need to make money. How does this fit into that bigger picture?
Yeah, so we launched our sustainability kind of framework in September 23. And our strategy, just to kind of summarise it, it's based on kind of three things. So we take action for our partners, which is our customers, farmers, suppliers. We take action for our planet, so it's about the environmental impact that we have, and our people. So this is about helping colleagues and consumers to live happier, healthier lives. So my work is really focused on that people pillar. And stronger communities was a key. So when we launched our framework, stronger communities was a key focus for us as an organisation. So I think having that written down means that everybody in the business is really clear on, what it is that we're wanting to achieve, and it helps to, I think, just visualise that work that we're doing. And when we developed, because we developed like a set of principles within our stronger communities, and I think what that does, it empowers the different site teams to be able to operate within those principles. And we developed that in unison with our site team. So we got their feedback on like what works well. And, when we talked about Fair Share with the site, every site spoke really highly about the work that they're doing, wanted to do more with them. So we really took that as an opportunity to think about how can we scale that work, and really put those more collective efforts into doing something more meaningful.
Has there ever been, over the course of the last 2 years, when you look back since you launched that strategy, and obviously all the work that's involved in that, and the social impact work that goes alongside it as well, has there ever been any conflict in the business in terms of the fact that work's really, really important, but at the end of the day, the company's still got to make a profit and money's got to be made and certain amount of product has to be sold? Has there ever been a conflict there in terms of those two sides of the organisation?
Yeah, so it's a good question. So I think that obviously we're a fast-paced organisation, as I've said, and I think because we give the sites the autonomy to work within the principles, they make it work for them. So we have certain points of the year where we can be really busy, so we call them peak kind of seasons. So it's difficult then to get volunteers kind of out, because there's a lot of obviously operational focus that needs to be on. But then there's other times of the year when it is, I suppose we've got more flexibility to be able to give back. So I think because we give the sites the autonomy to do that, they make it work for them, and it's empowering them to make it work. So I think that's one thing where I think if we tried to say you have to volunteer every month, that wouldn't work. But because we trust the site to get on with it, and operate within those principles, that works for us. And then the other thing I would say is that when we set up our Stronger Communities approach, we spent a lot of time at the beginning really talking about the positive impact that us being out there as a brand has out within the communities that we serve. So when people see us, Muller, going out and giving our time to the community and volunteering, that does a great piece in terms of the brand, so I've got my mug here, my Muller brand, but it does, when you're walking through the supermarket, you then think about, I'll pick up a Muller yogurt, or I'll pick up a Muller pint of milk. And so I think it's really trying to demonstrate that from the very start, that it's so important, and actually that time invested, you get it back through your consumers, because you've got that trust with your consumers.
Yeah, it leads to positive, not PR. PR is the wrong term, because it's not something you're pushing out there in a true sort of PR sense. But as you say, it's that knock-on effect of association, isn't it? Association between good and product. So yeah, I can see that completely.
It's kind of like an integrity, isn't it? Really, it's a kind of, as much as it can be, like an honesty with your consumers and with the projects that you're supporting out in the community, with the Stronger Communities. Viki, I was just going to say, what do you think Muller's learned from working with Fair Share? What kind of takeaways could it be that could give advice to other companies that want to get charities on board? What have you learned with working with the charity that's benefited you?
Yeah, I think collaboration has been like the biggest thing. So what I would say about Fair Share is like no challenge is too big for them. So if I give an example, I think we took to Fair Share, it was last year at some point, that we had a department, not just a team, but a department that wanted to do a volunteering activity. And the business partner that we worked with at the time, called Lisa, who worked at Fair Share, she literally was like, bring it. This sounds like an amazing challenge. Let's see what we can do to create a really great opportunity for all those people. There's over 50 people that went along from Muller to, I think it was in one of the Birmingham Fair Share sites. But that, for me, that collaboration piece where it's just that flexibility, it's just been helped with everything that we've been doing. So, yeah.
Do you think that's the key, Viki, in terms of how charities can establish relationships with corporates? Is there that need for collaboration? Is obviously really important, but you need to have something in common with that organization in order to have that kind of mutually beneficial, very collaborative approach to whatever it is that you're achieving. Should charities be looking for organizations that they can link to because there's that something in common? Does that make it easier?
I think it helps, definitely. I think that if you can find that natural kind of pairing, I think it does, because obviously with us with Fair Share, there's that natural connection that you can see. So I think if you can find that, it just helps make the work that you do, I think, much more meaningful. So, yeah.
Well, that's a whole lot of yogurt. Good for your gut and good for UK charities. The key to such a successful partnership. We'll have more from Viki in a bit. But first, what's caught your eye in the third section news this week, Tim?
Okay, so this is a bit of a personal one, but there you go. Got my usual annual rejection email from the London Marathon the other day. Absolutely gutted, but fully expected. I think that's something like a 0.25% chance of getting in through the ballot, because so many people apply and there's so few places. And one of the reasons why there are so few places available for people in the ballot is because, and I thought it was worth just spending a little bit of time reminding people of the amazing good that the marathon does for charity. So one of the reasons why I didn't get a place through the ballot is because the marathon offers approximately 25,000 charity places, making it the biggest entry route for participants taking. And basically how this works is that individual charities receive a few to several dozen places. For example, Ronald McDonald House UK and St Peter's Hospice, just two of the huge selection of charities that you can see on the TCS London Marathon website, they each have about 12 charity places for 2026. So it just goes to show that charities, big and small, have a large number of places across the marathon. Now, just also to touch on a little bit of the amazing fundraising power of the London. The largest ever single day fundraising total for the London Marathon was set in 2024 with £67 million raised just on that one day. But this year, over £75 million, perhaps not just on the day, but across all the fundraising totals as they were brought together, over £75 million was raised in total, with 34 million via Enthuse and 41 million via Just Giving, smashing previous records. So again, every year on year, it seems to me like they're breaking records. It's an amazing. And since 1981, when the marathon first started, the event has collectively raised over £1.3 billion for charities. So there we go. It's an amazing event. I think it was just worth spending a little bit of time talking about it ahead of the 2026 event, even though I won't be one of those runners running it, unfortunately. I wish I would be. Anyway, Piers, what about you? What have you spotted in the news this week?
Well, it's more of a health story this week for me, Tim, but obviously that's what the Brain Tumour Charity does. We're a health and research charity. And it's a fact that with a lot of these stories that are surfacing this week, a lot of other charities are also looking into them. And it's to do with things called GLP-1 receptor agonists. For everyone else, that's the rise of weight loss jabs. Everyone's talking, or the media's talking a lot about the weight loss jabs and the benefits and the massive surge of uptake of these. But that caught my eye because a lot of charities were kind of weighing in with their kind of take on it for understandable reasons. Now, this is one that jumped out at me, was that Müller Cancer Charity was urging caution for those people going under cancer treatments and their use of weight loss jabs, because they saw a surge in calls to Macmillan's free support services from patients using the drugs during their own treatment. So it's much more of a hot topic for a lot of these kind of health charities out there, the increasing numbers of people that are using them. And then Muller went on to say that, quote, while quick fixes may seem attractive, we simply do not know enough about the long-term impact of these weight loss medications to recommend them if they're not prescribed by a specialist. So this is obviously to do with while you're undergoing cancer treatments, radiotherapy, chemotherapy, etc. But obviously everyone's urging caution to do a little bit more kind of research in the back of this. And also on board was the British Heart Foundation as a charity we all know there, and they've got the caveat that much more research has to be done, but they're also thinking that there may be quite a lot of potential other health benefits beyond just weight loss, things to do with cardiovascular health and cholesterol and all the kind of heart related stuff that you can imagine. So just really interesting, this was picking up, this massive kind of wave of people and wave of interest in weight loss jabs, but obviously the implications then for people's health that is, cascading through various other charities.
Another good example of charities having a voice and influencing policy, influencing decision-making across, other sectors and politically as well. So I know nothing much about weight loss jabs, but it seems like an interesting topic, and certainly one that lots of charities will have plenty of opinions on.
I think one thing that stuck out with me, Tim, was just that I mean, obviously, if you're associated with a charity, you may know, but you may not know many charities that offer the support lines, the information lines. So, if it's something that you are concerned about or impacts on you, then, reach out to the host of them out there, because there's information and support from anyone out there as well, if you need more of that.
Absolutely. And I'd say, as someone speaking from experience, if you have a medical concern or something that you're going through and you're struggling to find the answers you need from the NHS or from your GP or whatever, then reach out to there'll be a charity there to support you. Reach out to them and they've got amazing people on the end of the phone to help you. And I definitely know that firsthand. So yeah, absolutely right.
Now, in the second half of our chat with Viki Bryant from Müller, we dive into what really makes a charity corporate partnership work, including tips for smaller charities, the power of volunteering, and why company culture, again, no pun intended, matters more than you might think. Let's get back to it.
And I'm interested as well what you've been saying about how your employees are involved in the project as well, and the volunteering. We've just come off the back of Volunteers Week, which was earlier this month. Really important week for us as a sector. We see, not only in Volunteers Week but across the whole year, how important volunteers are in our world and for supporting our charities. And it's great to hear that volunteers are people getting on board at the organisation as well. For you, tell us about that. In terms of, is that easy to bring your employees along on that journey? Do you see some reluctance there? Are most people happy to spend some time volunteering? How do you get them out there?
So we, as I said, when we designed our principles, we got our kind of people involved in the creation of that. And I think as a result of getting them involved, we identified the people within the organisation that either volunteered already or were really passionate about having a positive social impact. So we got those people involved as like champions, so we call them stronger community champions, and we, I suppose, brought them into the fold, if you like, in terms of these are what the principles are, this is the autonomy that you have to work within these principles. And I think it's giving them that opportunity to lead as well, and the skills that they get from, I suppose, bringing a group of volunteers together and organising things, and that liaison between ourselves and FareShare. So it was really creating, I suppose, giving them the ownership as well to be able to drive it. So I think something else that has worked. Did
that work? Did they encourage more people to sign up? So did your champions bring more people on board?
Yeah. So our champions, and I think, I'm not saying it perfect by any stretch, but we're continuing to bring more people along with us. So one of the things that we've been doing recently is doing like quarterly kind of share and learns. So what we do is we invite some of our champions that have been out and done some volunteering to come along and tell us about their experience. So we really find that storytelling piece just encourages more people to get involved. So the storytelling translates into action. So that's one thing. And then I find that getting our senior leaders to role model. So we've had quite a lot of our senior leadership team go out and volunteer. Then again, that just starts that positive ripple effect. And I think it gives permission for them and their teams below to think, oh, that looks great. And then, if they're encouraging it, then it just creates that positive chain of events, really. So there's all sorts of different ways that we try and encourage people. I think another thing that we do is we're a manufacturing, organisation. So continuous improvement is the heart of everything that we do. So we have something that's called Muller Excellence, and it's a maturity assessment basically that all of our sites go through. So it's like foundation, bronze, silver, gold, etc. And it covers all sorts of things from engagement to training to leadership to culture. But one of the things that we've built into this assessment, if you like, is about involvement within the community. So the fact that it's something that's part and parcel of the kind of day-to-day within the sites, and there's something that they're measured against, that also kind of creates that involvement from every level within the organisation. And we have found that our sites get quite competitive as well. So if one team's doing something, another team doesn't want to be outdone by that. So there's that competitive element that works for us as well. So lots of different things that we try.
I love that competitive, and that's it. It just tap into the competitiveness of your staff and your employees and your culture, then you're onto a bit of a winner, aren't you?
And everybody also wants to see their senior leaders get their hands dirty as well, don't they? You want to see that.
It's true. It's lead by example, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
I thought it was a really, really interesting point you made there, Viki. It's that giving the teams, or the kind of structure, permission to take part in it, because obviously not everyone's an extrovert, not all of your employees or all of the charity is an extrovert, so you kind of show and tell, and then you can lead the way, don't you, I guess. But charities that are listening, Viki, what sort of things do you look for, or have you looked for in FareShare that have said, do you know what, this is why we want to keep working with FareShare? Is it such things as they've got a great connection to their community, or their commitment to their cause, or that tangible impact that they're making as a charity? Are those the sort of things that Muller would look for to keep this partnership going?
Yeah, so I think the fact that they can connect our food with people that need that food is one thing. I think the fact that they really do understand the operational complexities of working in the kind of the dairy kind of industry. Their teams are really able to adapt and kind of work with us to just make things kind of make the relationship work well together. So I think it is that true partnership kind of approach that we've got with FareShare, and that's kind of what we look for. It is really those things, I would say.
Cool. And I think as well, tell us a little bit about what your thoughts are in terms of, I'd love to move on to talk a bit broader about how charities can learn from this collaboration that we've been talking about, and what your advice might be for other charities. What do you think makes a charity partnership between a corporate and a charity go from being a transactional one, where it might just be a bucket or a collection tin at the end of a till? How does it go from that to being transformational, where it works in incredible ways for both parties? What's the key to going from a transactional relationship to a transformational one?
I think it's learning from what has worked well. So it's trying different things, and it's working together to find what works well for you. And I think that's what FareShare do really well. Because we've got, like I said, we've got different kind of team sizes, and there's just different things that they offer. I've done a few things with FareShare over my time. One of the things that you can do works well for smaller teams, and it links into that competitive element, is that you can go out and you can just fully step up to the plate. And it's where you go into kind of local Tesco Express stores, but you go in small groups to like different stores, and you've got like a little flyer that's got a list of the products that would be welcomed, that would be nice to be donated. And then the teams then politely approach kind of shoppers that come into the Tesco Express store and ask them to, would you mind donating, purchasing as an extra product, and then donating it to FareShare at the end. So, that works really, really well for some teams, but that doesn't work as well for other teams. So it is just really trying to find, I think the fact that they offer such a variety of different things that we can get involved in. And I think working with them to understand that maybe what's the saying? One size doesn't always fit all, but it is just about creating different opportunities that might work well in some situations, but not so well in others. So I think that's the flexibility piece. Sorry, I keep saying the same thing, but it is about flexibility.
No, it's absolutely true. I agree. I think a transactional relationship between a charity and a corporate, where there's only one thing that they can do, and that's it, and it's they want their customers to drop some money in a bucket or whatever. That's all well and good, and there's lots of relationships like that. But when you can work in partnership, where the charity is offering opportunities for the staff of that organization to get involved and learn more about the charity and the people it supports, then you're just going to inevitably have a deeper relationship, aren't you, between the two organizations, and it's bound to work. Yeah, and
I feel like there's probably more things that I know there is more things that we can get involved in with FareShare. So it's how can we make sure that we are making the most of these opportunities as well. So there's more that we can be doing, and it is through those conversations and learning more about spending time with the charity, and then figuring out, okay, that sounds good, let's get involved in that. So
I do like that. There's a transactional and the transformational, the two bedfellows, and sometimes don't always work. But when they do, I think that goes into a really powerful kind of partnership, really powerful collaboration. So, Viki, if you've got a small charity that thinks the likes of Muller way too big, and they're with someone else, and then they kind of they wouldn't know the first step to get involved or to collaborate with you, what advice would you give a small charity for someone like yourselves? How would they do it at a really, really basic level? What is it? Is it a pitch process? Is it an idea? Is it aligning values? What sort of advice would you have?
I mean, I'd probably say if you don't ask, you don't get. So, it's if you've got something that you think is going to work, kind of finding a contact, putting that idea together, having a conversation about it, and then finding something that's going to be mutually beneficial, I think, for both, is probably what I would say. But yeah, kind of go for it. And yeah.
That does make sense, doesn't it? I mean, that's the partnership teams in any sort of charities. And by the very nature, you have to be bold in a charity because the cause you're doing or the support that you're giving for a community, you have to be out there. You have to just go for it. As you say, you don't ask, you don't get.
I think the charities should never assume either. I think it's quite dangerous in our world to assume, do you know what, I'm too small fry for this. There's no way that giant company's going to be interested in me. So as you say, if you don't try, you don't stick your head above the whatever the saying is.
Yeah.
Metaphors mixed up, but you know what I mean. So yeah, I'm totally with you on that. I'd like to come back to culture. So we'll finish off where we started, if you like, in terms of talking a little bit about culture. What role do you think culture plays in creating the kind of business that wants to work with charities in the first place? Where does culture fit into that puzzle?
Having a culture where people feel that they can make a difference, giving people the tools to be able to make the difference and the autonomy and empowerment to be able to do that, I think is really important. I think, our people really do want to make a difference within their own communities. So I think being able to leverage that, and then I think creating the opportunities where people can go out and see the impact that they have, and it's just that virtuous cycle that we've kind of talked about. So yeah, I think it's just creating those opportunities, and just seeing how we fit into that puzzle. It does just create that positive impact. And I think so should I share another experience that I had with FareShare was when I went, I was invited to go to an after school cookery kind of class. So it was FareShare that kind of partnered with the school and provided products to the school, and the school used these food items to ensure that food basically goes to families that need it. But they position it as a cookery class, because there is a stigma associated with, I suppose, families, and children taking food. So they position it as a cookery class to teach the kids about food waste. So I went along to that. It was just a couple of hours after school, and there's probably around 20 odd children that were there. But we cooked like a Sunday dinner with all the trimmings,
Wow.
and yeah, it was good. It was good. So we did that, and the children that came along, we made sure that there wasn't, how many people live in your family, and then we made sure that they took enough food home to feed their whole family.
Wow.
So that was great. But when I said that I worked at Muller, to the kids, they were so excited to tell me about what Muller products they like and what they enjoyed. So just little things like that, and you think actually the impact that we have in the community is. It's great to see and it's great to hear. So I think the more that, we empower our staff to go out and experience those moments themselves, then they feel that, they have that emotional tie to that, and then it just creates those repeat opportunities. People want to go out and do that again and give more. So yeah. I don't know if I've answered your question, but I hope
I think you definitely have. And also kudos to you. I'd say volunteering to cook with children. That's it's not easy.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think I was a little bit. I don't really know what this. But I'm just going to go with it anyway. So
yeah,
it was fun.
I think that's the only way you can do it. I remember doing it at our local school that both Tim and my children went to. The primary age cooking is the most stressful, but the most rewarding thing I think I've ever done.
Yeah.
I could just imagine 30 kids with you, Viki, saying which is their favourite corner. There you've got a whole. Muller corner debate going on. Would you say that kind of that interaction, that employee, almost one-to-one interaction is an example of the best way of getting employee volunteering working. Are there other examples, or do you think it's just having that connection, that ability to have that connection with the charity that makes it so strong?
I think it's the connection and then seeing the real world impact that you're having, because I think, when you look at the numbers, so we reached a milestone within Muller with Fair Share, which is the 4 million meals that we've moved, but that's a number on a page. But then when you actually get people out there and see the impact that it's having, and seeing those people that use, whether it's a community group or whether it's a breakfast club or whatever that might be, when you see that, I think that's when you really start to, people really connect with it even more so. And then, especially if it's in their own community as well, and I think sometimes we can be blinkered, can't we, to kind of like what's going on, and live in our own little bubble. So when you can see the people that do need to use services or food banks or whatever, it just brings it home to you, I think. So
yeah, that comes back to our bread and butter, Tim. That comes back to the storytelling. Those stories then are then carried out into the company, into the charity, into the community, aren't they? They're what make it work.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think it's really interesting to hear about the fact that you talk about any kind of partnership, corporate and the charity. Both sides also need to know about the impact. So stories are really important, and knowing that everyday real world impact for real people is so important. There's a lot of talk in the charity world about sort of values-based partnerships. I know at Firefighters Charity, it's really important to us when we look to work with others that we share, these organizations share the same values as we do. And it's not just about a transactional relationship, as we've already talked about. How do you make sure that your partnerships and the partnerships with the organizations and charities that you work with and have done in the past reflect your values as a company? Do you sort of make that judgment call as well when you're deciding on who to work with?
Yeah, so I think, everything that we do really does dovetail from our sustainability action plan. So, how we can build stronger communities, how we can have that positive impact, thinking about the kind of the sustainability goals that we've got. So I think that 100% we think about, the work that we do and how is this going to support the activity that we want to do and the sustainability goals that we want to achieve. So yeah, we are thinking about that when we're thinking about working with charities. The charity work, if you're thinking about the impact that it has on your employees as well, it's that feel good factor as well, isn't it? So when you're helping, and I think this all builds towards that positive culture as well, because we use our volunteering opportunities as a great way to create teamwork, and it has a positive impact on your own well-being as well. So yeah, it's that virtuous cycle.
I think that's a really powerful thing to come away with, Viki. I mean, that's the reason I work in the third sector. That not feel good does sound a little bit worthy, but it's not. It's so much more than that. You are seeing tangible effects of your efforts on a day-to-day basis. And that's a really powerful thing to give any employee, no matter where you work. The last thing I wanted to just come back to, Viki, is if you had a room full of charity leaders, there's 30 charities there, what's one thing you'd like them to know? What's the one thing you'd think they'd want to take away about Muller, Fair Share, about working with a charity?
Oh, so one, I've got 3 written down. Can I say
3 is fine, go for 3.
So I think flexible and solution focused is that being prepared to adapt, and understanding the corporate that you're working with, what are their rhythms, and just so that you can, I suppose, ebb and flow with that. Open communication and just celebrating the wins along the way. So, and that storytelling piece is so, using storytelling within your communication, because that just inspires more people to get involved. And I really do think you've got to leverage kind of your local kind of relationships that you've got. I mean, that's 100% worked well for us. The fact that we've got those relationships with the local kind of teams, and we empower those teams to be able to kind of make it work. So I think, empowering your people to be able to get the best out of the relationship. So sorry, 3 things there.
Brilliant. Viki, that's been 3 is absolutely fine. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for coming on to the show. It's been great to meet you and fascinating to find out about all you do.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Over the past few weeks, we've been shining a light on some of the UK's incredible small charities, organisations doing essential work, often with limited resources and little fanfare. It's quickly become one of our favourite parts of the show because there are thousands of small charities out there changing lives every day, and we want to help more people hear their stories. So if you're part of one, or you know a team doing brilliant things in their community, we'd love to hear from you. Drop us a line at thecharityshowpod@gmail.com or use the link in the show notes. Tell us who you are, who you support, and what would help, whether that's connection or just a bit of backup. We'll do what we can to get your story out there. Right then, Piers, who are you going to spotlight this week?
So we had Janine Norris get in touch from us, highlighting the Muirhead Outreach Project based up in Scotland. And Muirhead was created back in 2004 to work alongside social work and children's homes to help support families to keep their children from being taken into care. It goes on to say that over the years, our services have developed and grown, but our core mission is to keep families together through challenging times. And on their website, their description says that the outreach project, the Muirhead Outreach Project, it works with young people and their families to create connection and empower families to thrive. We aim to minimise the impact trauma has, it says, on families and help them break their trauma cycle, and they support families to repair and maintain relationships. So really, really powerful smaller charity there based up in Scotland. So thanks, Janine, for getting in touch with us and reaching out with the Müirhead Outreach Project.
Fantastic. Sounds like an amazing charity. And also this week, Lynn Stanier got in touch to tell us about their future today. Now, this is a charity that is a UK-based charity, but working overseas. They work in Sri Lanka to help improve the lives of vulnerable by helping to end the institutionalization of children. Lynn tells us that they focus on reuniting children in orphanages with their families, preventing abandonment through food programs, education and training, supporting women and girls, and introducing the new concept of foster care to provide children with safe, nurturing family environments. So some amazing work going on there in Sri Lanka from a UK charity, a UK small charity. So thanks, Lynn, for telling us all about their future today. The links to both of those charities, as usual, we'll put in the show notes.
Two more brilliant family-orientated charities making a real difference in the world. And don't forget, if there's a small charity you think we should feature, drop us a line at thecharity.showpod@gmail.com or head to the link in the show notes to nominate them. And that's a wrap for episode 28. A huge thanks to Viki for giving us a glimpse into charity partnerships from the perspective of the corporate world. What have we got coming up, Tim?
Yeah, there's lots coming up in the pipeline, Piers. We'll be back next Monday with another episode of the Charity Show Bites, of course, so make sure you don't miss that one. And of course, we're also always on the lookout for people to feature on our main show as well, so we'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely. This sector is full of brilliant stories and brilliant charities. So whatever you and your charity are working on, send us an email, a voice note, or a DM using the links in the show notes. Let us know what you think we should be talking about.
And if there's a small UK charity you think deserves a bit of love, don't keep it to yourself. Nominate them for our small charity spotlight. Could be your own or one you quietly admire. Just head to the show notes to tell us more.
If you've enjoyed this episode, tap follow or subscribe on your podcast app. And if you've got a sec, a quick 5-star review really helps others discover the show.
That's it for episode 28. Thanks for listening, for supporting, and for being part of it all. Take care, and we'll see you next time.